All right, good. Here we are, 2 minutes away of the official opening, and we have a couple of people in already. Hi, Vinka. Hi, Telma. Hi, Isabella. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Welcome. Claire already said hi before she had to run away on a phone call, but she'll be back in a second.
Great.
And
Hi. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hello.
Nice to see you again, Stefan.
hi, nice to see you. I have a lot of regulars like Telma and Vinka that come see me, and Claire is a regular as well.
Yeah.
We've known each other for a couple of years, so that's
Always
really
looking
good.
forward to it. Yeah.
Well, we got two superstars this afternoon, so it's going to be very easy to do this one and to get a little bit of an audience. Anyway, we should kick off gently. Let me quickly get a couple of prerequisites out of the way. We're doing a LocDiscussion. It is a type of an edition where we're inviting people to actively participate in our conversation. The theme today is process innovation and cutting edge transformations in localization. That's why I have the distinct honor to welcome Alex Bernet from the Localization Institute and Dave Ruane from the PIC at LocWorld to this edition of LocDiscussion. And they're going to help us through this complex topic this afternoon. Somebody's got their microphone. I'm gonna have to mute there. Good. All right. Before we start, maybe let's do a quick introduction. I don't want to say anything out of line, so I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves a little bit. Most of you probably know them already. So who wants to go first, Alex or Dave?
I'll start off since
All
he's
right.
pointing to me. We've got our verbal or our non-verbal cues down. So my name is Alex Bernet. I work for the Localization Institute, as Stefan mentioned, for Ulrich Hennis. I've been there since 2012, and I'm the manager of the masterclass program. We do online masterclasses and trainings in localization. Ulrich also co-founded LocWorld Conference, and I've been working for them as well. And I have responsibility as being kind of the ringmaster with Dave. I look out for when he's wandering too far off, and I lasso him gently and bring him back in. And so let's do that right now. Dave, over to you.
I feel lassoed. Lovely to be here. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good evening, depending where you are. Dave Ruane. I am based in Spain, in Europe. I've been in the localization industry quite a while, going on 29 years this year. But who's counting, right? And I'm the co-founder of the Process Innovation Challenge. I've probably worked in many different roles in this industry that many of you share, including technology roles, account management, sales. I'm currently leading some of the M&A work that we do for Line People Global, which is a growth solutions company based in Europe, but also with global reach. So delighted to be here.
An Englishman in Spain, is that correct then?
Irishman in Spain.
Irishman in Spain. Oh my goodness! I'm happy Paul Barlow isn't here. You would be slapping me around at this.
Paul would back.
This
Yeah, you'd be in trouble
that would
then
be
if Paul
it would be a bad deal. But I'm jealous of you living in Spain. That's not a bad deal. I know several people that are in that area. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about process innovation and what you are looking for as the organizers of your pick at LocWorld. What are you most excited about when you're looking out for technical solutions?
So the pick started back in I believe it was 2016 in Barcelona, and I started helping Dave in about 2018, and kind of my role was to bring a little bit more form and just to kind of up our production level. The main thing that we want is our innovators to be the focus of the Process Innovation Challenge. And so dialing in the production of, basically it's a 1 hour competition that takes place at every LocWorld. And each innovator has just 3.5 minutes to pitch. In our final, we do a preliminary round where you get 3.5 minutes, you get 30 seconds more, a whole 30 seconds more when you make it to the final stage. But it's really quick, and it moves quickly. We typically have 6 innovators in our final competing for a chance to win the Innovator of the Year award. Anything you want to add to that, Dave?
I think you did that way less than 3 minutes. Yeah, I mean, it's a platform. Like the purpose is to give innovators who may not have had a platform to share their innovation, to share it. That's really what the remit is. It's a place to share really cool ideas that have something to do with localization, globalization, and language space. And that's how it started, and that's how we continue it, right? We're going to be the 17th version this fall in Monterey. And it's really about giving innovators that space, a platform where they can share that great idea. And we try and maintain and continue the kind of, the trueness around that, so that, Alex and I facilitate it, and we just enable as much as we can innovators to have that kind of platform. So what are we looking for? What key elements do we look for when we evaluate solutions? Well, it's, there are lots of different ways of baking the cake, right? Let's just start there. Someone might have an innovation that's ready to go. It's in the market. It's an innovative way of dealing with solving a particular problem, and they want to show what they have. It could be a technology solution. Other folks have built a new way of looking at a problem, maybe building a process around it. And when this was created, the Process Innovation Challenge was the name I came up with Ulrich Canis. And it was really a way to kind of encapsulate this idea that it's not just tech. It could be process. It could be some conceptual different way of thinking that is innovative. So let's give it an opportunity to have a stage. So we do look at, what's innovative about what the person is offering. The innovativeness of the innovation, if you like, is it really innovative? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's an old solution to a new problem, but maybe it needed to be dusted down and revamped and fine-tuned. Another thing we look at, what makes an effective submission, would be, and more and more nowadays, it's understandability of what problem it solves and for whom. So we've all heard, when you're speaking on stage, storify more, personify the problem. Well, we would agree with that sort of advice. The more you can spend on the problem, and in some cases we would indicate that could be 50% of your pitch time, right? Yeah, 50%. Let people care about the problem. Make them understand, how big is it? Who does it impact? Why should they care about that problem? Why is it a problem worth solving? How deep does that problem go? How broad does it go? How extensive does it go? So that understandability of the problem. And if you can do it through a storytell and talk about the problem from some particular person's perspective, maybe it's a copywriter, maybe it's a manufacturer, some person, that will help people understand what it is your cool innovation solves for.
I would think that over the years, doing this since 2017, that you've probably gotten kind of an education on what pitches work and what pitches don't work, and that's kind of, for those of us that are involved in tech solutions in the localization space, in sales, you could probably come up with some really good tips, I would think, as to what mechanisms work, pitching or marketing a new solution. What would be your top 3 pieces of advice you could give to anybody who has a new tech solution that they want to pitch to the market?
Well, as I was preparing for this, this discussion, I was thinking about the evolution of the pick, and I actually went back. We have a YouTube channel where we have recordings of our older competitions and looking back at some of the earliest competitions. And it's interesting that back then too, the pick wasn't quite as recognized and people submitting weren't, I guess I would say the bar has continuously raised over the previous years. The first initial times we were often seeing innovators with typical PowerPoint slides with some bullet points. It's obviously, as the competition has grown and we've gotten more and more people, the way that you differentiate yourself, one way is with visuals, making your presentation compelling. And that also extends to the actual pitch itself and the way that you deliver it. Everything from pacing and the way that you engage with the audience, making eye contact. We've introduced coaching in the last few years that we actually provide people who are making it to the final with some coaching. I would say we see kind of two trends. Typically, we all have different personalities. We all have different strengths. Sometimes we get our very left brain, very detail-oriented people who have maybe a fantastic innovation, but their way of getting the point across, first of all, defining the problem, as Dave says, maybe is not that clear. And on the other end, you have people who are extremely good naturals on stage. Dave is one of these people who just, you put a spotlight on him and he just naturally glows and rises to the occasion. Sometimes people like that.
I've seen the halo here a couple of times as we were talking. Sorry for interrupting. Go.
Not at all. But just to say that, sometimes people like that come to us and maybe the innovation itself isn't that well defined, and yet they have a great presentation. So that's where the coaching comes in. And we go back with each person and we really look at the entire 3.5 minutes and we say, how can you improve this? How can you really make it the best possible? And I think if you look at the quality of the competition, and we say this every time, but it keeps getting better every time. And we've reached this point now where people are really, they're using animations in their slides. They are even polling the audience. Dylan Hartman, at this gentleman from Australia who was in Dublin recently, went up there and took a picture, a selfie for his young daughter back in Australia. And you know what? It grabbed everyone's heartstrings, and I think it really helped elevate it. So there are so many different ways that you can approach what you're doing, but the key is to connect with your audience.
Is that your take too, Dave?
Well, absolutely. Like we built it as a way to connect the innovations with the wider industry and the current audience, right? And that came out of a kind of, 20 odd years ago, I ran an engineering team in Dublin, and we used to have a weekly meeting. And one of those meetings, we're going around the table and someone says, oh, I have this software build problem I've been trying to figure out for a couple of days. Anyone got a fix? Or, and then someone said, yeah, I have a script, I'll send it to you, it'll solve it in 15 minutes. So the meeting continues and I kind of go, what just happened? Anyone see what just happened? And people said, yeah, he solved his problem. And I said, no, we didn't share an innovation. He just wasted 2 days that he didn't have to if he knew that existed. So this existence of really smart, simple things, small innovations, there didn't seem to be a platform or platforms in the industry. If that's happening in a company, this is a team that sat on the same floor, right, in cubicles, and they weren't sharing it. So clearly it's happening at a much broader scale in our industry. So this was the kind of idea. And there's a certain amount of naivety in it, but at least if we can get this kind of platform moving, and we have now, thankfully, other people will see, okay, there is a space that I could put my stuff, and I have a great idea, and I don't like speaking in public, which many great innovators don't. They just, they just back off from it. So
the tacky guys are sometimes not as verbose as the left brain guys.
Yeah, I mean, that was me. You can believe it if you want or don't, but it absolutely was. But when you have a purpose and when you have a safe space, then you can make those steps. And it's like anything, with practice, then things start to come together a little bit more. But you asked me another question. I'll mention a couple of things. One, 3-slide rule, right? So we, in the preliminary rounds, we kind of force, we try and be as gentle and as helpful as we can throughout the process, but we do force a couple of rules. And one of them is you can only use 3 slides in PowerPoint for the preliminary round pitch, which, as Alex said, is 3 minutes. And that really forces people to look at their pitch deck, me included, by the way, which are usually 20 slides long, and to bring it down. How do I bring it down to 3 slides, right? And that's an exercise that I would just advise anyone to have a look at. Try it sometime. Force yourself to get down to problem, solution, impact. Whatever structure you want to use, 3 slides, and see how it goes. The other thing I would mention, which Alex alluded to, was this idea of visualization and creating things, make it easier for an audience to understand through what you say and what you show. And we still, one of the pieces of feedback we always give to almost every innovator is your font size is too small. And even then, they don't go, what I would say, big enough. Has anyone read Presentation Zen? May have heard of the book. It's a great book. Look it up.
It's going on my list.
Yeah, one of the things the author speaks to is never have more than 7 words on the slide, right? So you may have heard this type of a rule, and the idea is that slides aren't documents. This is you're presenting to an audience. So we do give people more than 3 slides in the file. For anyone who wants to use lots of slides, go for it. In fact, one of our winners sent us their deck for the final. So we have everything controlled in one slide deck. And there was 33 slides in the deck. And I said to him, I said, you do realize you have 3.5 minutes. And, he said, don't worry, Dave, I've practiced this. I know what I'm doing. I said, okay. And off he went. And every slide was visual, and it just touched on an emotive idea. And he flew through them like this. He was clicking like crazy. And it went with his story, and it worked for him. And he won. And so everyone, it's you can get your story and get people on side and just make the visuals there for supporting what you're saying, because people will buy into you.
Yeah.
They're looking to get an essence of you from your pitch. And if you're too automatic and closed, then you're missing a trick, because they really want to learn a bit about you as well. So, there's a lot in that. I'll give it back to you, but happy to say more.
Yeah, I know. I think that there's a great sales and marketing lesson in this, and I get asked a lot about my LinkedIn activities, and I have had very similar experiences growing on that platform. I'm not pitching a specific solution, but I think I get a lot of practice in garnering people's attention and attracting eyeballs on what it is that I do. And certainly the visual aspect of things is super important. I think short and to the point, hooking people. I think those are things that are probably very similar when you have 3 minutes time to make a pitch on stage at LocWorld for your innovation idea. Anyway, I was just wondering, because you've seen all kinds of innovations over the years. I've always thought about, this is great that somebody wins here at LocWorld, but what happens afterwards? Like, what are the success stories? How do you measure the impact of the winners of the pick, and do you have a way of keeping track of that? Do you follow that? How does that usually play out?
So one of the one of the first ones that I always think of was back in 2018, a woman named Lori Silverstein from SPI Global had never heard of LocWorld, much less the pick. And I believe it was our friend Yvonne Hennekart who basically brought her to awareness of it and said, you should enter this, just give it a chance. She submitted a proposal. She first pitched in our we call it the 3 cubed preliminary round, and she was selected to go on. And she was actually deciding, do I have the funding? Should I actually make this investment to fly to Silicon Valley and to attend a LocWorld conference? Like, trying to make a decision, is it even worth the entry fee at LocWorld? And by the end of the conference, it's one of those things I still get goosebumps when she, tells the story about how they had really not even considered their solution as being necessarily a localization focused solution. They were looking at other applications. Again, it's basically it's a smart dub solution, and LocWorld was a new international audience that they hadn't considered. And by the end of that very conference, the second day of the conference, she said, this has opened up literally millions of dollars of potential new revenue for us. So, you know, that's just one success story. And we've heard so many other different versions of it. Is there one that you want to highlight, Dave?
Well, I'll just talk about Laurie for a second. Like,
Yeah.
it was hilarious. You know, she thought it looked like she'd won the Oscars. You know? And we get that reaction sometimes, and it reminds us, because we're focused on producing this thing, right? So we're the facilitators. So we're just looking at all the kind of, you know, the production pieces, the timing, all of those things. So we're focused there. But it's nice to get a reminder that, you know, the impact that this has for people and the excitement that they have. And we see that now. We try and, you know, embrace that a lot more. But yeah, certainly Laurie's was incredibly great to see, and she was just a very excited person, and it was great to see how it developed for her. At that same take, actually, the person who came runner-up was Heather Shoemaker, CEO of Language.io, and you know, talking to her, this allowed her to get immediate short-term exposure on really good idea that they had, and then afterwards it was continue to build, think a lot bigger about their solution. Getting that peer validation was very helpful for them. And then, you know, what they did and still do is they work on picking the best neural machine translation approach for customer support use cases, but it's enabled them to go beyond that. So that kind of validation impact is really important. Like, well, one of the things that we do is we do these random pop questions where we ask people in the audience when they've seen a funnel, and a funnel has 6 innovators in it, by the way, and we say, hey, you know, what do you think? Were any of them interesting or relevant? Were some of them relevant or interesting in the future? Tell us what you thought. And normally what we get, right, there's 6 in the funnel, so there's some cognitive bias at play here, probably, is that most people say there was 2 that they found interesting right now, 2 innovations. There's 2 that they feel could be very interesting, relevant to them in the future. And then the other 2, maybe not so relevant. And we hear that again and again, that kind of pattern of people finding a few that they actually see the relevance in. So they were well pitched and they could understand it, and they were able to make a kind of a decision choice of, yeah, actually, you know what, we can actually make use of that right now. Within 3.5 minutes, that's quite amazing. For us, it gives us the kind of sense of, hey, you know what, this works, and the format works, and people are understanding what it is, and figuring out how they could potentially implement it there and after. You know, in terms of impact, I got to mention one person in particular, and you know, one of my favorites was Julia Tarditi.
By the way, I have the share button open. If there's anything you guys want to share visually of these examples, you're welcome to. Not that you have to, but I just want to I want to let you know. And one thing that I also wanted to ask you while I was thinking of it, who gets to decide who gets through to these rounds? Because that's not you who decides, right?
Let's answer that, Dave, and then we'll come back to Julia too, because I definitely want you to explain about her. So great point in the conversation to explain that Dave and I are the ringmasters. We're the, you know, we're basically the masters of ceremony, but we actually don't have any voting impact at all. In fact, we don't vote at all. Basically, we select each time, we select 3, we call them dragons, process dragons, and they basically serve as our judges. And we select different ones with the help of a LocWorld advisory board that helps us to select candidates who will be the judges, and they can come from all different backgrounds too. Some will come, you know, we've had several people from the LSP background, but also people from the venture capital side, and then also from client side companies as well. Salvatore Giamoresi from PayPal was one of our more recent client side dragons, who just brought such a fascinating perspective from years on that side of the industry as well.
It's a very high level and a very nice guy at the same time. So that must have been nice.
Yeah.
But sending you money doesn't work then. That's not a good strategy to get through to the next round.
I'll share my banking details in case anyone wants to try that, but I don't think it would be very effective or or a very good use of your money. Just to return to the dragon thing, so the dragons change every time, and they're the ones who help us select from. Last time we had actually 28 innovators pitching in the preliminary rounds, and they had the very tough task, those 3 judges, of helping us whittle it down to 6 finalists who would move on. Now, when you get to the final round at LocWorld, the audience comes in as well. So we take the audience vote in the live session, and then the final tally is voted 50% for our dragons and 50% for the audience. So really, the audience out there is also having a big role in selecting that innovator of the year.
Do the dragons and the audience usually agree?
No.
No.
Yeah,
And it's quite amazing. Like we've learned a lot as we've gone along, you know, the dynamics of you know, the psychology of choice and all of those things. We're bystanders, but we love just seeing that and how it takes place. And invariably, no, they don't. And part of the reason is that the audience is seeing the pitch for the first time right there, whereas the dragons have had a bit more time to learn more about the actual item being pitched, the innovation. So there's a slightly different context. And as well, the dragons may have a particular perspective. I'll give you an example. The last 3 dragons, you know, 2 of them were fairly senior business leaders. And so their context was coming from that side. It was the, you know, the business, the, you know, applicability. And we talked to applicability quite a bit, actually, with the innovators. Is how do you make this more, you know, how's it applicable to different use cases? But yeah, there's definitely a mixed bag in the voting, and we do see certain, you know, one of the things that Alex was saying is we're there to facilitate. So we look out for anomalies and all that stuff and just make sure everything is above board, because that's how we run the platform. But we do see certain kind of trends, and sometimes like we saw about a year ago, where some of the innovators really put themselves out on stage and became themselves, right? And so people were voting for the person. So sometimes it's not just the innovation, it's actually the person becomes bigger than the innovation itself. And we saw that actually in Dublin in June. And actually, let me ask everyone a question, if you'll permit me,
Absolutely.
Stefan. And so the question is, you know, if I have an innovation, you know, which of these do you think would do better, right? So if I had an innovation, right? So I'll give you 2 options. One is a great innovation that's pitched okay. You know, pitch is okay. It's fine. Or that's option 1. Great innovation, pitched okay. Second option is an okay innovation, really well pitched, fantastic pitch, knocked out of the park. So what do you think would do better?
Yeah, do 1 or 2 in the chat, and then we can
1 or
kind of
2,
see
yeah,
whether
that'd be great.
one or 2 in
So
the
one was
chat.
great innovation, pitched okay. Second was okay innovation, pitched really well.
Yeah, oh, there's a lot of people that are picking 2. Oh no, we got some 1s as well. My experience would say that it's probably more about the presentation than about than about the product itself, because 3 minutes is short. And if you can if you can make people smile and get them to feel something, you're probably halfway there. That would be my guess. But I'm gonna let you answer it.
I feel like this is reflected right now. I see so many 2s. There are a couple of 1s there, but yes, I think you hit on the point, first of all, Stefan, that 3 minutes is only so long, right? And so you can only go so deep, and especially if you're taking Dave's advice and you're really well defining the problem, when you actually get to the innovation itself, you're not going to have enough time to explain how the technical ins and outs of the innovation actually work. Again, you're going to have about 90 seconds left to actually describe what your innovation does. And that's where the presentation is so important. And I think this is reflected again. I would say that we're at about 70 to 80% of the voters here in the chat have said option 2, and I think that's a trend that Dave and I would concur. We see that.
Yeah. What's the most memorable pick winner for either one of you? Do you have a favorite over all those years that you like that? I mean, there's a lot of good ones, I'm sure, but is there one that really stands out for either one of you?
Before we think and answer that, let me just
Okay.
tell you some numbers, right? We've had over 250 submissions over the years.
Wow.
We've had 90 finalists, 90, and 16 winners and 16 runners up out there. So we're starting to accumulate the numbers. So, you know, if I was to ask you what's your favorite film, right, you might give me a top 5. So we'll give a bit of context about what we're going to say next. But Alex, do you want to have a go?
Sure. You know, I think for me, I would select Lori, just because of how effusive and excited she was in the moment, and it transferred in her final pitch. You know, I think even in the lead up to the final round, she was already meeting people and networking at LocWorld and realizing again how valuable the experience was going to be for her, and that just came out. And you know, I can't think of a better person to personify the excitement that we've had with the pick. So I would select Lori. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, so a few years ago, we were in Estoril in Portugal, and we had a really nice room for the sessions, and it was in that kind of theater style. So the seats were going up at an angle, right, and you had a stage. So it was very nice, and I was kind of thinking, oh, this is great. You know, the speakers are really going to be able to speak into the hall and amplify their message. And then I went just to talk to each of the innovators, and one of them was this lady who was a little bit shy, and she was kind of way in the corner doing her own thing. I managed to speak to her, and I started to speak to her, and I said, "Are you ready to go? Is there anything we can help you with?" The usual sort of banter that we do. And she said a couple of words, sort of, yeah, no, it's fine. Very soft spoken. I said, so I just said to her, like I said to everyone else, just make sure you get close to the mic so that your voice is properly picked up and amplified. So she did, and her turn came around, and we introduced her, and she went on stage, and she started to talk about a big problem in our industry from her perspective, which is we should not use source text all the time.
Yeah.
And she started to explain the psychology, why in the brain translators are, when you give them source text, they're going down system 1 rather than using system 2. And it was just amazing. She explained why you shouldn't do it. And then she explained what she did, which was not to use source text. And she worked for a financial application. So it's phone apps. So the user interface, you can imagine, was smaller. And she said, not using source text improved click-throughs by 85%. It improved all these KPIs and metrics, money metrics. So she had proved it. She had done this experiment, and she had proved it, and she had shown her results on stage. In 3.5 minutes, she blew the audience away. You could hear the wows, because initially it was, oh yeah, what are you talking about? But then it became, oh my God, you've got the proof. You're showing us the proof. That was Giulia Tarditi, and many people may have heard of Giulia. And she is head of language experience at Revolut now, a board member of the EU Commission think tank on translation. And when we met her in 2019, she was customer tribe lead at Monet, as I mentioned, and it was a massive moment. She got published real quick after that. Got to speak quite a bit about the concept, and since then went on to great things. And her ideas are still used by localization managers everywhere as, hey, you know, maybe we should look at this. So yeah, that's one of my favorites, but you know, one of many.
And I would just add that the aha moment is in a final round is always amazing to watch, when you can literally hear the air sucked out of the room as everyone's like, wow, I didn't think of it that way, you know? Another similar one recently was Jack Weldy from Smartlink explaining the way that they extract visual content from videos. And his demonstration just again, the actual innovation part was less than 60 seconds probably, but it showed clearly in this video, and Jack was on stage being charismatic like he is, but everyone in the room went aha, including Salvo, who was the judge. I mentioned before that he was with PayPal. I forgot he's with Airbnb now.
Yeah.
But I could actually see on stage as Salvo went, wow, like and those are kind of the coolest moments always.
What do you
Yeah,
see? Go ahead.
We can give you loads if you want,
Yeah,
Stefan,
no,
but
we
stop us
keep
whenever you
going.
like.
I don't need to
Um,
ask questions if you have things to talk about.
we saw one 2 years ago in Berlin where Andrea Ballista was talking about this idea of expressive voice and building you know, his own proprietary AI to help develop expressive voice for particular use cases. And what was great about that for us was this is someone who just got European funding. Then the previous November, then the June after that, you know, 9 months later, was on our stage, won the competition, and then got quite a bit of traction and interest from people. And it was still being productized, but it gave him and the team that kind of feeling that, you know, we got to go for it. Let's keep investing. Let's keep, you know, get our own money in it, get money from wherever, and just keep going with it. And now he's been able to build up a company that's really productizing and finding their sweet spot. So we love hearing that, because sometimes you know when you see something, say that's just too good, you know, that's going to go somewhere. But then you hope that things work out and they can get the kind of the backing and the funding. And we're just giving them the stage, remember, right? So we're giving them that audience and the stage. And now, thankfully, and thanks to LocWorld, you know, the stage has got quite a bit bigger. So when people are pitching in the final, there's you know, upwards of 450 people in the audience from the industry.
And with Andrea's, like his was actually a live demo on stage too, where he was demonstrating emotive voice translation, right? So he was able to take a random string of text and basically take a person's voice right there and record the voice and then have it played back in basically multiple different languages with the same kind of emotion that the original snippet was in, and in the same voice. And it was amazing. It also has all kinds of other applications for, you know, handicapped, and you know, I think he talked about people with ALS and stuff who were having trouble, who you could actually reproduce their voices in their native like emotion, and that was just another wow moment for everyone in the audience.
Where do you see the type of solutions that are being pitched evolving? Do you think that there's trends that we're moving into more now than we were, say, a couple of years ago? Is there patterns that you can see?
Yeah, they're probably multi-colored patterns, right? There's overlapping patterns. There's some lines that you go. I'll give you a couple of examples, right? So 2 or 3 years ago, we were starting to see a lot more dubbing type of innovation, and then going into subtitling and other multimedia use cases. So we saw a kind of a, you know, a blip of those coming up and appearing on the stage. Then we saw kind of a move back into more automation systems, so both translation management systems and then automation in other ways. We saw that building up. And then we've seen more laterally this idea of connectivity. So, you know, within our ecosystem, with all of the technology providers and silo technology systems, if you happen to be, you know, a language service provider, for example, you need to be using lots of different systems. If you're a customer that's getting translations purchased or any other language services purchased, then maybe you can choose the systems a little bit. But that idea of being able to connect systems together is definitely a trend. And we've seen a couple of companies, Blackbird, of course, comes to mind, and Bruno and the team won the pick a couple of years ago, and did a really nice job on showing how that can be simplified. So that simplification of the complex, and in particular in the connectivity, Locale on connectivity as well. Be Lazy, Istvan, he's been in the pick a couple of times as well. So that idea of making the more and more complicated ecosystem more easy is getting some real traction. And we're seeing interpretation technology come back into the fray that we didn't see that before. So while that's not necessarily in our wheelhouse, we've seen more of that. And then last one I'll mention on that is this idea of doubling down on solutions that work. And so where neural machine translation solutions apply to new use cases. And that's very much so. Secure solutions that are proven to work, applying to new types of content is very much one. And then in the last two process innovation challenges, we've seen people patching in solutions to generative AI systems. So they've connected what they had to generative and then shown how that was innovative in solving either new problems or existing problems with new outcomes, whether it's better speed or better cost points. So very much seeing AI. I think it was the last one, Alex, or the one before that, where every title had AI in it.
Literally, like I think 5 of 6 in our final, and that, again, everyone's talking about generative AI. To the connectivity trend, I would just add to that. What I notice as not a tech expert is that there's this rush to make kind of all-in-one dashboards, right? And so we've seen a lot of dashboards because people, again, no matter how your tool works or whatever, people want to work within systems that they're comfortable with. So in a way, social media, the way that feeds and such work has really kind of bled into the pick as well, where you're trying to make it in a system that people without a whole lot of training can easily understand your tool and make multiple features work kind of seamlessly together.
When people want to participate in the pick, when do they start thinking about this? Is it 6 months in advance? Is it?
Well, I'm hoping that some of our audience here might be new and be thinking about it right now, because I'm glad you bring this up. We have our call for papers open right now. I'll put the link in the chat here in a little bit. But through September 6th right now, we're taking submissions of innovations for consideration for LocWorld 52 that'll take place in Monterey in October. So we're in the middle of that process right now, and I would just encourage anyone out there. It takes very little time to fill out our submission form. It's basically 5 or 6 short answer questions. You can probably fill it out in less than 10 minutes. If you have an innovation, why not take a chance and join it here? You don't know, what is it they say? You never in basketball, you never make the shots that you don't attempt, right? Like
That's a Wayne Gretzky quote. I could tell you that. It's you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I think that's the way it goes.
Exactly. And that's what I would say to people out there. This isn't something that's going to take you, a whole week to put in your time. No, you can complete this pretty quickly and just take a chance on it and join our competition. The thing that we try and make sure to do is keep it fun and lighthearted. Like that's something that we do in our final rounds and stuff too, is that Dave tries to put Dave and I try and infuse a little bit of humor into the presentation and stuff too, because while it is a competition and yes, you want to win, first and foremost, we're a family. We're trying to elevate innovators of all kinds to get more visibility in the industry. And that is really the fundamental point. So if you have an innovation, please visit our website at pick.locworld.com and think about submitting it today.
Yeah, and at the very least that could potentially happen is you get invited to a preliminary round and where you have a chance to actually put your pitch deck together and you will get feedback. So everyone who pitches at the preliminaries will get feedback from us. And last time we had, what was it, 28, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
And so we will provide feedback, and if you want to have a conversation and all that, we're available to talk about it and give you some guidance. But it's that's really what this is about. And there may be people on the call today that says, "Oh, I've got this great idea and we've implemented it locally, and I don't know if I can share it." You can submit to the CFP, the call for proposals, and you can let us know those things, and we can try and help you, guide you through what you should share and what IP you just don't. And we've helped people to get past their own internal processes and that as well. So, have a go, and then before anything is shown to anyone, we can have a conversation. So sometimes there's doubts like that creep in, but you know, we just want to continually provide the opportunity for people to at least pitch at a preliminary round. So that's what we brought in a couple of years ago, so that we give people at least that experience. And then we record those. So if they want to kind of show it to friends, hey, here's me on stage, even though it's a virtual stage, they can do that as well. And as Alex mentioned earlier, then the finals are recorded too. So you all can check those out on the YouTube LocWorld YouTube channel.
I think Alex put it in the chat already. I want to apologize to everybody that's in the audience today, because I usually start with this, and given that I have two very eloquent guys that are not shy speaking, we just dove right in, and now we're almost 45 minutes later. If you want to ask Alex or Dave a question, feel free to open up your microphone and join in the conversation. Those of you, and there are many that have been here before with us, know that we usually have an open platform, and the last thing I want to do is hog the conversation and feel people like they're just sitting in on a podcast. That's not what we're doing. Although we've been doing more or less that in the last half hour, so forgive me. I was wondering, while people are thinking about a question, I was wondering whether there's areas that you guys as the PIC experts see that the industry could pay more attention to, that they're not paying attention to right now. Something that you think like, why is nobody going in that direction or working on a solution in that area? There's such an opportunity.
That's a great question.
I think I'm reminded of one of the winners a number of years ago, Riekert Engels from Zillow, and you know, his concept, you know, was his business model, which was to create a middleware for connectivity and to reduce the redundancy in people creating different solutions for the same problem. So you had all these different vendors, whether they're technology vendors or language supply companies that create technology, and they're basically creating similar solutions. So what his concept was, let's try and harmonize on this. And I think that's an area I'd love to see more work on. You need standards for that to happen, because everyone is competitive, right? So, you know, no one wants to give their crown jewels away. And if they feel that a particular aspect of a technology is their value proposition, then of course they're going to hold on to that. So, but I do think that there is a certain amount of, there's a kind of bedrock we could create for different types of things. Connectivity is one of them. So connecting to different systems that everyone could use, and then, you know, it just works. And then you build your kind of value proposition on top of that. So it's a bit of a vague general answer, but that's one that's always in my mind. And being an engineer many years ago at Microsoft, I always felt, hey, if things could just connect together, wouldn't we just get on and solve higher value problems?
I would just add that, you know, obviously, as generative AI solutions are sought by, you know, companies of all stripes, everyone is looking for ways to, you know, basically reduce labor costs and replace with Gen AI. But I think that it's more important to focus on making the humans in your loop more efficient. And so I like seeing solutions that aren't necessarily just, you know, plug it in and let it go, but more like, how can I improve the workflow of the humans in my team to make them be able to take on much more instead of dealing with menial tasks? And so it's not just a race to cost cutting and eliminating humans. It's more about empowering the humans that you have.
Chantal, you want to come ask you a question real quick to the guys here? I'll pin you up, and I know you're usually a little shy, but I'm going to invite you if you want to come. I hope I didn't scare you away. I'm looking for you right now.
Okay.
There, where are you?
So
There you are. Hold on. I'm going to pin you just a second. There we go. There's Chantal. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So yeah, you spoke about additional redundant solutions to problems that have already. Can you hear me? I don't know if my.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Yeah, that have already been solved. And that was exactly something I was wondering about. The TMS solutions that already exist, some of them, not many of them cater to rare language with special scripts. Do you think existing TMS should solve that problem, or should people that are interested in those problems try to build another TMS?
Yeah, no, it's a
Great
great question. And I think there's very much an inflection point for language technology happening right now. And what do I mean by that? That you have systems which have existed maybe for the past 10 to 15 years. So when cloud computing really took over from client server architectures. In fact, I used to work for one of the first companies that took the cloud on and built a TMS around it. But you're talking about systems that may have 6 to 8 million lines of code, right? That's a lot of code, by the way. And they were kind of built the architectures because they didn't exist for the various kind of functions that a translation management system, as we're speaking about that type of system, would need. I think that a lot of the technology systems now are able to connect together much better, so a modular type of a system can fit in. Let me explain what I mean. So if you have a system that's best of breed for doing a particular function, and its API allows that to connect in with other systems, then that plug and play aspect, I think, is going to be a lot more relevant. So what does that mean to an entrepreneur who has a great idea? Can they compete against translation management systems? Absolutely, I think so. But what they'll need to figure out is how do they plug that in, and what kind of business model would work to actually, they may have to build partnerships with companies so that that can actually be connected in to contracts with enterprise buyers, because that's the challenge. But the modularization and the ability to modularize stuff and build technology on top of what exists, I think that exists now a lot more, and we're going to see people productizing that. In fact, in what I do day to day, I'm seeing companies who are actually productizing stuff that, if you're to look at it, it looks like a translation management system, but it's much lighter. It does a specific task, and it just seems to do it in a lighter, more modularized way. So Chantal, I don't know if that helps or
You have answered that and my follow-up question, because you spoke about partnership and modularization. That was my follow-up question.
Chantal, I'm working on a presentation for the African Languages Association conference on the progress of generative AI solutions in Africa. And one of the things that I think is going to change, particularly in Africa, there's an opportunity there as well. But I think that given the lay of the land that we're in right now, we've been used to in the localization industry, we've been broadcasters for such a long time. We've essentially grabbed something that was in English and broadcasted in 100 languages. But as we go through these new technology waves, I think there's something new coming our way, and that is that there's going to be multi-directional communication coming into play in the localization industry. Much more customers are talking back, and there's a dialogue that is being created. A lot of the TMSs of today are built on the sole notion that there is source text. We already brushed upon that particular topic a little while ago in this conversation. I think at some point, a lot of the source content is going to go away, and the content is just going to get created directly in the target language, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially for the smaller languages. That's part of my presentation. I'm tipping the veil here, but I think that there's opportunities specifically for the smaller languages to be part of the mix, because in the past it wasn't commercially viable to involve them, but that hurdle is disappearing quickly with the technological capabilities that we have. Anyway, I'm not the interviewee here, so I shouldn't ramble on too long. Maybe another question for our guys. If anybody else has a question, feel free to open up your mic and jump in.
Can I just briefly add? I just
Yes.
wanted to briefly add too about the question Chantal asked about lower resource for languages have actually been a more recent theme theme in picks as well. We had a gentleman named Sharif Azaka from the University of Wisconsin, who is working to capture, again, one of the big challenges with lower resource languages is that you don't have a pool of certified, verified translators to pull on when you have a project or whatever. And, you know, another innovator was Amy Ansari, the leader of Clear Global and Translators Without Borders, who's pitched many times, and she just won the runner-up actually in Dublin. We're really happy for her. But again, talking about solutions to deliver actual quality translations to people in countries with lower resource languages. And so that is a very undeveloped, and I would say that's an area that I would like to see the PIC continue to expand as people focus more on how you can properly serve lower resource languages.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm looking for you. I'm gonna bring you in so you can ask your question. I'm scrolling through. There you are.
That for me? Oops, darn, turn it off here.
There
How's it
you
going?
are from France, Mr. Jeff Allen.
Yeah, sorry, they got the Olympics on the TV in the other room, so I come over here. Just Alex and Dave, I mean, I remember in a talk that Renato gave about a year and a half ago, in one of his technology talks, he said there was a lot of repetition in the field, and I said redundancy of technology solutions. And I said 30 years ago, I was doing real innovation 30 years ago in this field, automatic translation, statistical stuff. But over the past 20 years, all I'm doing is repeating the same thing in all the companies I work for. I'm constantly repeating it and just customize it in something, even today at SAP. And now today, and it's all about the intellectual property. I'm writing 8 patents right now, you know, in parallel and I'm just wondering, in this field that there's so much, you know, repetitiveness in what we do, what's the risk of like patent wars in about 2 years with Gen AI? You know, what do you think about it? And I teach corporate, you know, I teach intellectual property at SAP, so I teach all of us to be careful about what we say, you know, and what we present. Within this whole thing, giving pitches and getting people pitches, what's kind of the risk of this in about 2 years? What do you see what I mean? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Jeff. And I think with OpenAI architectures as well, and people becoming a lot more understanding that, oh, hold on a second, they're actually taking my content, and then they're, oh, hold on. But so I think the risk, which, look, we've tried to build this to give innovators an opportunity to have a platform to get their ideas out there, right? But then there's a risk associated with that what do I show? And I think we haven't seen people kind of holding back, because they've what we have seen is maybe less conceptual ideas going to the platform and more productized and legally ironclad ideas to kind of put it in that language, and to speak to what you're saying about, you know, maybe they have the patents and everything is clear before they show it. So we've seen a little bit of that, but we do see a lot of concertina effects where, you know, on one side we see more concepts one year, the next year it's more closed and it's a bit more. And this time in Dublin, just to give you a sense, we saw a lot of platforms which Alex and I were saying, actually, there's quite a lot of similarity in those platforms. So that, to your point on, is it really innovative? You know, we realize for a platform like this to continue, the audience, it will, you know, speak with their feet, right? And if we don't bring a level of innovation each time, and they feel that there's an innovativeness in the air, then, you know, the platform isn't doing what it says in the tin. You know, it's not an innovation platform. So for us, it's looking a little bit outside the industry sometimes and trying to find edge cases where there's people with an innovative idea that may not have seen the light of day in our industry, or people may not have known about it, and we bring it in. So we're looking at ways to just revitalize that. But to your question, absolutely think that, yeah, there is that risk. And I think certainly with OpenAI and adaptive and whatever comes next after generative, people are going to realize that, okay, I've got to hold on to my assets a lot more.
Yeah, I've had people steal my ideas even internally, and I've had to challenge them on it. You know, say, you stole that, and it's all published for 20 years, and you can't take it. You know, And that's a hard thing to have to do, right?
Mhm.
So in this field, and I worked out of the industry, so that's where a lot of ideas come from, out of the industry and bringing them back in. But I'm just wondering, in the next few years, will there be? We'll see, right? We'll see how this rolls out. But
I think what we'll probably see, Jeff, is that the ideas are built on the newer technology stacks, right? So that the innovation is going to be relative to the stack it's built on. And we'll probably see people, going for higher purpose. And I'm starting to see that in some newer entrepreneurs, that they're coming in with, they're basically assuming that we have, whatever large language model in place, we have this in place, we have that in place. Well, my solution is on top of all of that. So does that get rid of that problem? It probably redefines the problem, and it means that your patents may need to be on top of those stacks existing. It's a bit like saying, well, I've got a great idea for, this very cool new device here, and oh, by the way, I need Wi-Fi to work. Anyone got password? Right. So I think we're going to be on top of giants, right? And we'll start to see it. But as you and I know, having seen innovation for a number of years, that's how it just works, right? People get onto the next platform, build the next generation of innovation. Great point.
Abhishek, you had a question. You're going to get the last question into the session, man. So the floor is yours.
Well, hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm so sorry I joined a bit late because I was stuck in a traffic. So I'll just start with introducing myself. My name is Abhishek. I'm from India, and I'm also working in a translation and localization company. And I'm working there as a language lead in the industry of localization. So yeah, I do had some points with regards to AI implementation and some certain automation techniques in the localization processes. As we all know that there is a lot of human intervention being required in a lot of processes. For example, if we do source text analysis or we do like quality checks. So I just wanted to discuss about a point in which, for example, take source text analysis, where we get a handoff from maybe a client, and we have to provide information with regards to TM or whether certain set of queries or how the file is being translated. So there are certain lot of at current position, I believe I have a lot of human intervention required in it. So how do you people think about automating that process?
Have we seen any automation in that process, guys?
Dave, can you field that one?
I think this is probably going to be a great question, by the way, that some other folks in the call may want to chime in on. With source text analysis, I think the overriding sort of thing that we've seen in the past number of years is that there's this understanding that content now is in repositories, right? And so those repositories, whether it's a CMS, CCMS, PIM system, whatever it is, the problem to solve now is less creating file filters, is actually just connecting those systems together. So then there was another understanding that I felt when people was creating content in headless systems or whatever it was, that that content should be fine now, right? So, but I do think that the problem has just moved to a new system, so that the source text and that quality, and I remember companies like Acrolinks and others would build in, this kind of way of checking whether the English or the source language content was actually correct and, technical or whatever the rule-based checking was going to do. But I do think that just needs to move now to the source repositories. And I'm not sure, I'm not an area expert there, but I certainly believe that the problem has moved there. I don't know if
So yeah, that definitely.
Maybe Abhishek, you've given the tech creators an idea for the next pick in in Monterey. Maybe they can work on a solution that works towards that. I'm sorry to say, but we have exhausted the hour like that. This was a really super interesting topic, and we probably could go for another couple of hours, but I know that many of us, me included, have to get back to some work to finish up the week. So thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll see each other again next month with another fascinating episode of LocDiscussion, hopefully. Alex and Dave, thank you so very much for making yourself available and joining us. And I can't wait to see you in California in October and see who's presenting for the next pick. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for having us.
Hey,
appreciate
you're
it.
welcome.
Thanks
All right.
everyone for
Bye-bye.
listening.
Thank you.